Tales of supernatural beings can be found all over the ancient world. The Bible, the Book of Enoch, and the Book of Giants, as well as other ancient Jewish texts, all speak of an event where fallen angels descended to earth and fooled mankind with their knowledge of science, war, and beauty. It is also recorded that these fallen angels, or watchers as they are called in the ancient text, manipulated the genetics, the DNA of mankind, creating an actual race of giants, as well as other hideous monsters using animal DNA. Descriptions of these disgusting beasts can be found in the Book of Giants, which, by the way, was part of the Dead Sea Scrolls collection. Parallel to that, other ancient texts speak of the same exact event, except it's from the fallen angels, or the Watchers' perspective. In ancient Babylon and Mesopotamia, for example, the Watchers were seen as a good thing. They came to help mankind, and they showed people how to do cool things. And they also created a mighty race of giants, men of renown. However, biblical accounts reveal these things to be evil, fallen angels led by Lucifer himself, who want nothing less than the total destruction of mankind. Quote, according to Mesopotamian myth, there were 7 Apkallu before the flood and 4 afterward. The word Apkallu comes from the Sumerian Ab, meaning water, Gal, meaning big, and Lu, meaning man. They were considered only partly evil, occasionally dangerous, and capable of malicious witchcraft. They were chimeric in appearance, usually depicted as humanoid with wings, or sometimes as hybrid birdman or bizarre fishman creatures. The antediluvian Apkallu were divine, just like the Watchers. According to one story from the Babylonian period, the Epic of Era was the god of pestilence and plague. Marduk banished the Apkallu to the Abzu as a punishment for provoking him to send the flood. Supernatural beings linked to a global flood who are afterward banished to the abyss? Sound familiar? Interestingly, the 4 Apkallu who appeared after the flood were only partly divine and could mate with humans. Again, like the Watchers, the last of the post-flood Apkallu, Lunana, who is 2/3 Apkallu, matches the status of Gilgamesh, who is described as being 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. On the cylinder seal, Gilgamesh is called Lord of the Apkallu and is elsewhere credited with bringing back great knowledge that existed before the flood. Scholars who have made the connection between the Apkallu and the Watchers tend to interpret the way the Watchers are portrayed in Jewish literature from Second Temple period, like the Book of Enoch, at least partly as a Jewish response to the Babylonian captivity. It was believed that the Apkallu, though potentially dangerous, had preserved secret pre-flood knowledge prized by the pagan wizards of Babylon. To the Jews, however, such knowledge was evil, and the Watchers were portrayed accordingly in Enochian texts. End quote. So, we have one epic story seen through 2 different lenses. On the one hand, we have the creator of the universe, the God of the Bible, telling the story. He is saying, yes, these fallen Watchers are evil, and you need to avoid them at all costs. And on the other hand, we have the account from the Watchers themselves saying, hey, that little guy, referring to God, I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
That little fella. Well, that little guy, I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
Quote, scholars have known for years that there are parallels in the Mesopotamian legends and the biblical accounts of the patriarchs. Enoch is similar to an antediluvian king named Emidarenki, and Noah is variously called Unapistim in Babylon, Zisudara in Sumer, and Ashra-Hasis in Akkad. But even those accounts are part of a fallen realm military campaign, a supernatural psyop. For example, the accounts from Mesopotamia portray Gilgamesh as a mighty warrior, a hero, 2/3 god and 1/3 man. He has adventures and slays monsters, notably Humbaba, the defender of the faraway cedar forest, who'd been assigned to terrorize humans by the god Enlil, who is Enki's brother. In the Second Temple Jewish account known as the Book of Giants, Gilgamesh was himself one of the gigantic offspring of the Watchers, as was Humbaba, the monster Gilgamesh set out to kill. This is how Gilgamesh was viewed by the Jews between the time of the Babylonian captivity and the birth of Jesus. Basically, he was one of the Nephilim. End quote. One of the Nephilim. In case you don't know what a Nephilim is, it's the unholy offspring between the fallen Watchers and a human woman. Yeah. Moving back to Gilgamesh, he was a giant, part supernatural being, part human, otherwise known as a Nephilim. Now, here's where it gets crazy. Scholars actually believe Gilgamesh existed, And not only that, this article from 2003 the BBC News put out says they may have actually found his tomb. Quote, Gilgamesh tomb believed found. Archaeologists in Iraq believe they may have found the lost tomb of King Gilgamesh.